social media, and I do some of it in Elite now. But I saw a presentation earlier this year that blew me away, and I was like, no, we got to get this guy in here to do this. So I'm very happy to turn it over to Tyler Watt, who's a phenomenal social media activist, and I'll walk you through it. Thanks, Tyler.
Well, hello everyone. Tim, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to kind of start off with my story and how I got here before we get into the nitty-gritty of all the social media stuff. So,
If anybody needs paper or pens, I have a few up the locker.
okay, like I said, my name is Tyler, and I'm here to kind of talk to you about building influence on social media, getting the conversations going, building your audience, as well as navigating fake news, because I think that that is one of the most important things that's going on right now in the online world. There's so much information, misinformation, different stories out there that it is really overwhelming to navigate. So I'm going to kind of tell you what I do to, navigate through all of that false information throughout this.
Quick question. Are you going to make that available to us afterwards?
Oh yeah, sure.
Great,
Do you know
thanks.
how to make it like just one slide at a time?
It's a PDF, so it's not the presentation.
Oh, okay.
If you had it.
All right. Well, this will do for now then. So I'm just going to start off by kind of talking about who I am. My name is Tyler. I'm 28 years old. I don't have much of a political background. How I got here is actually through social media. I'm a science student by nature. I have a biology degree from Trent University, and I'm currently finishing my Bachelor of Science in Nursing through Laurentian University at St. Lawrence College in Kingston. But in 2015, Donald Trump announced he was running for president, and I became nervous. My bubble of not paying attention to everything going on around the world popped. And then I started paying attention to everything that was going on, from the primaries to the night of the election when Trump won. And having gone through all of that and seen that this craziness can actually happen, I realized that it was probably time that I start paying attention and become more informed. Now fast forward to 2018, I was still paying attention to everything that was going on in the US. Every day it was getting crazier and crazier. And then Doug Ford suddenly takes over the Progressive Conservative Party here in Ontario. And not only does he look like Donald Trump, but he sounds like Donald Trump. His policies sound kind of similar. Well, policy is a strong word for the platform they had. But it was a little too close to home for me, I had my opinions about him, but I wanted to go and check him out in person to see if I was actually valid with what I was thinking. So Doug Ford came to Kingston for a rally. I went there, and I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. But he entered to Eye of the Tiger just like Donald Trump, so my nightmare was coming true. And it was everything that I thought it was going to be. There wasn't much substance to it. I saw the kind of populist rhetoric that I had been seeing going on in the US, so that made me really concerned. And that's when I really kicked into high gear about my political activism in Ontario. But my amount of knowledge of politics in Ontario really has started from Doug Ford onwards. After that rally, I started posting some stuff on my social media, on my personal Facebook to my friends and family, trying to motivate people to get out and vote, try to get them informed of what was going on, show them the different policies that were their options from the NDP, Green, Liberals, and try to show them what the PCs were presenting. But what I encountered was a ton of misinformation throughout the whole campaign. People coming up to me saying, did you know that Andrew is going to increase gas by 37 cents? Did you know that this is happening, that's happening? And it was just so overwhelming, I just couldn't believe how we got here. But through using social media and seeing how much misinformation is out there, I've kind of gotten a hang as to what's going on, and I'm hoping to help people navigate that. So after the election and Ford won, I started posting weekly recaps as to what was going on, just like these little text recaps. I'd see a news article and write it down on my phone. At the end of the week, I posted a quick summary to everyone as to what was going on. And people started messaging me saying, like, I really like this. It's easy to digest. I know what's going on, and please keep it up. So that was kind of my motivation to continue it. And one thing led to another. That led to me starting to make little videos. People seemed to be enjoying it, so I just kept at it. And come November is when my Twitter really blew up. What made it explode really was someone else who had a following themselves started promoting me, like retweeting me, because they saw or they liked what I was doing. So they helped amplify my message. And that's when I realized, wow, social media is super powerful, because in November I hit 1.5 million impressions, which was just crazy. Like, I was just saying my own thoughts online, and then suddenly I had this like huge audience. And since November, it's actually gone up quite a bit. Between Twitter and Facebook, which are my two main social media platforms, but I do use Instagram, and will get into YouTube at some point. Between Facebook and Twitter alone, I'm hitting about 3.5 million impressions per month now. And it's continuing to grow because social media is like endless. There's just so many people out there. So it's pretty cool. And that's what I want to help everyone achieve as well. Now, before I go on, the most important thing I like to say is I'm a millennial who grew up with social media, so a lot of it does come second nature to me. And I didn't realize that a lot of this stuff is like very useful knowledge for people who don't quite understand social media or feel it's a little overwhelming to get into. Now, I just put up those statistics, not to brag, but just to show that I'm legit. Okay, so why use social media? Now, just a heads up, this is like semi-political, political-based presentation, so that's why you're going to see some political references throughout here. So, in Ontario during the population of Ontario in 2016 was 13.98 million. Ontario social media users during that time was 9.37 million. So 67% of Ontarians at the time were already on social media. Here are the results of the 2018 election. As you can see, the Ontario PCs didn't win by very much. 23.5% of the total eligible voters in Ontario decided our future. But we have so many people online that we could potentially reach, especially if there is still 42% of voters left to tap into.
I thought that the PCs didn't get the popular vote.
I mean, in a way, I guess, but they didn't win by very much, yet they were handed a majority, you know? So my point is that so few people voted in this past election that it just doesn't seem very fair that they've been handed all this power.
That's the way the ridings break down.
Yeah. So Ontario's projected population in 2022, 15.23 million, with social media population being around 68.71%, but I would argue that that's probably going to be even higher. So there is a lot of room to discover new audiences, meet new people, especially people who think the way that you do. That's been one of the most amazing parts of this journey for me, is that when Doug Ford won, I felt super isolated. Like, I just couldn't believe what was going on. And by getting on Twitter, talking to people, interacting with people, and engaging with other Ontarians, I now feel like I have hope again. There are people out there like me who are progressives who truly want the best for this province. But before that, I felt like no one around me cared at all what was going on, and it was super disheartening. So I have a big soft spot in my heart for social media. But before we continue, I think it's really important that we do talk about fake news. This is something that is like a cancer in our world right now, particularly in North America. We are going through quite the journey with news media and getting into more opinion-based news articles and alternative facts and all that messiness. So it's important to know what you're dealing with here. Donald Trump just claimed he invented the term fake news. It even came over here when when Doug Ford, I actually mix up those two a lot. Freudian slip. But Lisa MacLeod said fake news in one of the first weeks that they were in office here. And she got so much backlash from that they actually have not used that term yet. But they are now attacking the media on a weekly basis. I can see the progression getting towards there. It's very similar to what's going on in the US, and that's why I'm trying to sound the alarms on all of this. So here's where I kind of go through and show you different headlines about the same story. So for this one here, Toronto Star does a good job because they tackle all the things. Tories blasted for a $335 million cut in planned spending on mental health. From that title alone, you actually get basically the full story. And I find that most people, unfortunately, are only reading headlines these days, so it's really important that you get all the information you can in that headline without putting a spin on it. Because when you put a spin on it, you lose credibility. And that's what I try to go through all these articles to actually figure out what the actual story is and not just the spin that that particular media outlet is trying to put on this story. Now, so the same story here by CBC, Ontario government to channel portion of mental health spending to police. I thought that that was a weird thing to talk about, especially from CBC, because you know that's a very easy thing to point out or attack the new government on. National Post, Ontario to use part of mental health funding for police initiatives. Again, this police initiative story. Rebel Media, same day. Why is the media party hiding the Toronto mass shooters links to Muslim terrorism? So, here what obviously they're not talking about the cuts to mental health, but they're trying to control what the narrative is of the day. And how do you get people scared, right? We talked about terrorism. Now, NDP here posted this. It's great, except the number's wrong. 335 is the correct number. So it just goes to show you how easy it is to actually, you know, slip up and put something that's technically false in there. It's almost correct, but I don't know why they wouldn't want to hit 335 in there. This is another story here. So for people who don't know here, Doug Ford totally messed up the merger between Avista and Hydro One. Washington cited 3 separate times after appeals that they are refusing the merger because of Doug Ford's political interference. That is why it went down. That is why we are spending $138 million Canadian on paying Avista for not merging. It's crazy. These are the headlines of that deal collapsing. National Post, Doug Ford's political interference blamed for collapse. That's nice. You know, I don't always expect that from the National Post. City News, that's good. CP24 is the only one I could find that actually had the number in the title. And I think it's super important to have that number in the title. Especially when that party is going on and on about the $8 million man. Because $138 million is way worse in my opinion. No apologies from Ford Hydro One intervention despite rejecting merger deal. That one's okay. And now this next one is my personal favorite. Ontario's Energy Minister says Hydro One and Avista's Ontario's Energy Minister says Hydro One and Avista assessing ruling. No mention of the fact that the deal went down. No mention of the fact that it's costing us $138 million Canadian. Now consider this. Premier Doug Ford hires top Toronto Sun executives James Wallace to be Deputy Chief of Staff. That's a great connection to have when you're in government, I think. Conservative, Andrew Scheer names former Rebel Media Director Hamish Marshall as 2019 campaign chair. Pretty frightening, in my opinion, that someone that close to the Rebel Media is involved in potentially our next Prime Minister. So every time I can bring that up, I do. So that's basically my formal spiel, and the rest of it I basically just want to go through these several things, answer any of your questions, even possibly do I just scroll through my Twitter and show you kind of the things that I do. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask now, or I can just go ahead and start going through those there. Yes?
This is very practical, but is it going to be useful to be online for this, or do you feel that's not part of what you
I mean, potentially if you want to follow along and, just try to. I find it's always better when you do it yourself instead of just watching someone.
The Wi-Fi is large meeting room, if you're looking at Wi-Fi on your computer, and the password is meeting house, capital M, capital H, no spaces.
Yes.
Just one quick example. This is even before Trump and before the Fords. At least 10, 12 years ago, I think it was OPSU was suing the Canadian government for equal pay for their female members as their male members. And on the same day that the Supreme Court of Canada had a ruling, the Toronto Star said OPSU wins for their female members, equal pay. The Globe and Mail said Canadian government loses.
Exactly, yes. So
For the very same story.
yeah.
You lose or you win.
Exactly. So even there you can see that there's a slight spin that's put on both of those titles, right? Yes.
Yeah, I know we covered it as fake news, but I kind of see it a different spin on a story. So that I could see in there, but I couldn't, which one is, what's fake news? You know, do I have to read all of the papers to see what they said and say, oh, this one makes, this is right, or, like,
So what I do for that is I will read several sources about the same story, especially if I'm going to talk about it publicly, because I want to make sure that I'm fully informed and that I have all the facts. Because you can actually pick out little bits from each news article that may be not mentioned in one of the other news articles for certain reasons, because it looks bad or it doesn't push their narrative, things like that. Now, to give you just websites that I do trust, I find the Toronto Star is generally pretty good. There are some times where I won't reference it because I can tell, you know, there's a slant on the title or the story that they're pushing, or the story itself is just kind of useless. CBC is good, but there are times where it's it just comes off very partisan, and there's no point in putting out a partisan source because people will just call you out on it. Occasionally I'll use a more right-wing media outlet when it benefits my own narrative. So when the National Post, for example, is calling out the Ford government, that means that this story is probably pretty legit, you know, because they tend to go a little easier on them. You know, I can't even remember, there was something recently where the headline, I think it was Ford getting booed at the Special Olympics ceremony, and I think the Sun, Star, and Globe and Mail all had like almost like the identical title, which is a very rare moment in current.
so you're relating fake news to whether it's a right-wing or a left-wing paper or media outlet. Is that how you're?
Potentially. To me, fake news is anything that's just not fully true or has a spin on it.
Fully true, or the most important part that reflects on who the people need to know.
Exactly.
Not in the title.
Exactly.
Buried or is left out.
Yeah. So that's why I really emphasize like read multiple sources, because usually you can figure out from that what the real story is. Because they'll all mention this like similar things, but then you can see the extra stuff they're putting in. Like, for example, if National Post will put in like a full quote from like a minister in Ford's government, that's fine. But if you don't rebut it with another party's statement on it, you're really just giving the reader one side of the story. So that's where I'll go and look at another source to see like what's the other side of things.
We'll be able to get this from you, right? Because I do like what you.
Yeah, for sure.
One
for sure.
story and from 5 different sources.
Yeah, for sure. I'll post it for you all. Yes.
Do you come across stories that are deliberately misleading or patently false?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, I don't seek them out personally, but it always cracks me up. Whenever you see a website that you have no recognition of, chances are it is not reputable. There's actually a website that I will put in the presentation for you that you can check the validity of that media platform, where it has its whole algorithm that basically tests to see how factual each media website is, and it will tell you, you know, how partisan they are, etc. So that's another good source to use.
What's the name of that?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will find it for you.
Hi.
Yes?
I think this also, I recall that there's a group of people, they actually check facts. And they will tell you, you know, from there, that they can actually let you know that whether it's fake news, because they're focusing in checking out the facts. And I can't remember those that site and that group of people. I think they're from Canada as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, maybe it's the same website I'm thinking of.
Probably
but-
factcheck.com.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. Yeah. The U.S., they are way ahead of the game on that end. They have like lie detector like live video gifs and everything, but I think Canada's still playing catch up a little bit. I have my qualms with the media right now. I think we're at the same point we are where the US was with Trump in his first year, where the media was calling his lies, cute little words like falsehoods, or still, still putting in titles things that Trump was saying, and we're still getting that here now. So every time I see a media thing in Canada call Scheer or Ford's statement a falsehood, I'll be like, it's called a lie. It's more effective. Any other questions? Sweet. Okay, well, I'll kind of go through things here. So, posting online, do's and don'ts. I ask myself 2 questions before I send out anything into the public. Number 1, is this true? And number 2, will it get me in trouble? I don't want to put out something that's going to be like beyond controversial, that doesn't have enough information to back it up. I want to feel totally comfortable and confident in the messages that I am putting out. But I'm also open to knowing that I can be wrong at times. And if people come to me, reply to me, send me messages or whatever, I'm perfectly willing to correct myself. And I think that that's important for people to be open to, is like, it's okay to be wrong sometimes, because we're all learning constantly, right? There's no way you can know everything. So that's kind of my golden rule for that. A big don't is please don't do ad hominem attacks. And ad hominem attacks are basically anything that isn't about the argument itself. And I see then Twitter is just polluted with this, okay? Anytime I post anything, someone is bound to insult the appearance of the person I'm talking about, particularly if it's a female. So I always try to squash that, where it's like, listen, there's enough that we can attack or talk about in terms of policies and their actions, but my mom always told me to never go after someone's looks, you go after their behavior. So that's another golden rule, because people don't take you seriously if you just go to those low insults. I don't take someone seriously if they start attacking me for my appearance or whatever. Attack me for what I'm saying, because I want to have that conversation. And I think that's where we've really lost the ability to converse. That's something I'm trying to get back at. I'm perfectly open to hearing the right side. I'm open to hearing what conservatives think and want to say, but we have to be civil about it. And I feel like we've really lost that ability in discourse here. Tagging others is a huge thing. So on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, really any social media now, all you have to do is hit the @ button, and then you can tag someone to basically get their attention. Or, so say you tag like Doug Ford on Twitter, so @FordNation. When people start searching him, your tweets are going to start showing up in the search results. So that's a good way to start, getting more exposure for yourself. That's just one of the ways to do it. Hashtags and searching is the probably biggest way that you can really start building your audience, amplifying your message. Hashtags are basically the way that people search everything now on social media. So a hashtag is like the number sign or the pound key, followed by a word or saying. For example, Ford and his government love the hashtag for the people. Hashtag for the people, or the government, hashtag for the people. So when you click for the people, it's just flooded with all this, all these conservative posts. So I love hashtagging for the people as well, just so my message gets in there as well for when people are searching for the people. Other popular hashtags in Ontario are ONPoli, and then federally it's CDNPoli. Again, I can also make a list of all these popular hashtags if that would be beneficial for you all. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you all are like climate activists, right? Like that's kind of your main gig. So
Social justice.
Social justice. Well, that's amazing. That's great. For environment, there is not a consistent hashtag. I tried looking for it, especially not one in Ontario. So I would love to start helping make a consistent one, because we have ONTED, ONTED for Ontario Education. We have ON Health. I don't know why we didn't use the T in that one. So it's kind of confusing there. But there's no like on environment or ONENB.
Green New Deal.
Green New Deal.
That's what I've been using.
Yeah, I've seen that one a lot, but that one is like kind of more global now, isn't it? Because I know there's a huge stuff going on in the U.S. with it and here. So if you wanted to make it more specific to Ontario or Canada, I would recommend like kind of coming together and like committing to one specific hashtag, and the more it gets used, the more that people will start using it themselves. Yes?
I want to contribute to the hashtag Our Nature. The federal government has a photo competition on right now, awarding nature pictures, and I've started using it to highlight climate strife, climate justice issues.
Oh, that's great.
Love that competition.
That's awesome. What is it? Hashtag
Our Nature.
Our Nature. Oh, I like that. That's powerful. Yeah, I like that. Yes?
I have a Twitter account, and I get messages, but I never did any Twitter. So how do we put that hashtag in? Where do we put it?
Yeah, sure. So why don't I log on and I'll show you.
Green on this, I'm sure other people are more advanced. I just, sorry for.
No, it's all good. This is a good time for me to get in here. Okay, so I'm just gonna log in here.
Which browser are you using? The incognito browser, which one is that?
I think it's Firefox
Just so you
It's
know,
Firefox?
or Chrome.
HMY is from, HMY key are kind of sticky, so they may rub against it.
Oh, my thing's still up on here. Oh, do you mind
Oh,
if I
that's
just
fine.
use this one? I won't tweet out.
Sure, you can go.
Okay. Okay, so,
The Queen.
for example, so say you want to tweet here.
Hmm.
Tweet. So this is where you can put in your hashtag. So let's
Where is
say,
that?
pardon?
Where is that?
The tweet?
No, that box, where is it?
You click on
See where
the
you got it
Just
from
right there.
there. So the
On the
top,
top there?
Yes.
the orange,
top of the
What's
round.
happening?
So that big tweet button up there?
Oh,
Yeah, so that's how you can, that's how you can put start your message to put out into the Twitterverse. Now, so I'll be like, hey, at,
So you
it's
can
always,
use,
it's always interesting writing on other people's keyboards. So hey, that's me there, if you guys wanna follow me, a little self-promotion.
You can use any hashtag you want.
Yeah, so hey, have you heard, oh, I can't type on this one.
A live one.
Okay, I'm just gonna pretend it says, have you heard about hashtag our nature? And you can, so, when you start typing hashtags, it'll always give you suggestions of other people's hashtags that are being used right now. So our nature popped up, so that means that a lot of people are using